We've got another playoff rematch from last year in round 1, and it's between the LA Clippers and Dallas Mavericks. In today's video, I'll be taking a look at the opening round matchup for the LA Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks and predicting the series, each team's strengths and weaknesses, the player who needs to step up, the keys to success, every little detail. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more NBA content like this, I'm trying to reach 17,000 subscribers, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's take a look at this first round matchup. The Los Angeles Clippers have bounced back well from their disappointing playoff exit in 2020 and are yet again a top contender for the championship in 2021, finishing the season as the 4th seed with a record of 47-25. The Clippers look even better this year as they've fixed a lot of the weaknesses that held them back last season, with improved playmaking with the addition of Rajon Rondo, who's been a huge positive since joining the team, and their interior defense has gone up a notch too, with guys like Ibaka and DeMarcus Cousins making big impacts for them during the season. The Clippers are still yet to get out of the second round in their franchise's history, and we'll see if that can change this season, hopefully starting off with a first round victory against the Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks have had a solid season, and with a late push at the back end of the season, find themselves as the 5th seed out west. Luka Doncic has been great again and will be a major aspect of their deep playoff run chances, but Dallas will need big performances from the supporting cast if they wish to go far. With an injured squad last season, Doncic dominated in the bubble and frightened many Clippers fans with some ridiculous performances. If that's a sign of what's to come, I can't imagine how exciting they'll be this year round, but with a healthy team instead. Dallas is coming in quite hot too and will be looking to upset their way past the first round in 2021. With that said though, let's take a look at the strengths and weaknesses of each team, starting with the LA Clippers. The biggest strength of the Clippers has to be their 3-point shooting. They've been amazing from downtown all year long, and will be the first team in NBA history, I believe, to finish a season shooting over 40% from 3. If that level of shooting can transition into the playoffs, it's going to be so hard to stop them, and will cause some serious headaches for the opposition, so this is a major point of focus for the Clippers this year in the playoffs. Another strength of LA's is their defense, as it's all around great for the most part. They have 2 superstar 3-and-D guys in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who obviously already make things difficult for opposition stars on both ends, but add into the mix guys like Patrick Beverley, Serge Ibaka, etc. on defense, and the Clippers look stacked on the defensive end of the floor. Against another juggernaut of an offensive weapon in Luka Doncic, this elite defense they've displayed all season will need to continue, and could help them get over the line in this series. However, a weakness of the Clippers defense, even though it's great for the most part, is their interior defense. Right now, the Clippers sit in 25th for blocks per game, which shows on the surface how underwhelming this area of their team is. And it's also evident they don't have a player to match up and contain a superstar big man like Nikola Jokic. We've seen that during the regular season. With that said though, it's an area that's definitely seen improvement from last year, where it was pretty shocking and probably lost in the second round. And I don't think against Dallas it will be that huge of a deal, but it's definitely something to be concerned about for the team moving forward. So those are the strengths and weaknesses for the Clippers. But what about Dallas? The first big strength for the Mavs is Luka Doncic, and yes, I'm including Luka Doncic himself as a strength for this team. Doncic has potential to be a generational player in this league, and we already got a glimpse last year how he elevates his game in the playoffs. It's no question he's yet again improved in 2021 to become an MVP caliber player, so his impact on the game is going to be crucial for Dallas. Luka's play will be a determining factor in this series. He will be the main focus of the Clippers, and he's already given them a fright with an unhealthy roster. so I think his presence and play alone will be a big boost for the Mavs in this series at least. The Mavericks are also a great three-point shooting team. They take and make a lot of three-pointers, and while by no means should they be considered an elite shooting team, they are a good one regardless, proven by their top 10 position in three-point percentage in the league this past season. The team is streaky from range, so if they do get hot, they won't cool off quick, and that will be important in matching the great shooting from the Clippers that we've seen this season. If the shooters around Doncic can lift and be consistent, it will enable Dallas to have a great shot at winning this series. Let's talk about Dallas's weaknesses now, and unfortunately for them, there are a couple. One is their defense. The Mavericks have been very mediocre this season defensively and lack a player who is quote-unquote elite on that end, so I can picture locking up Kawhi in this series quite a difficult task. The Mavs aren't great on the interior either, currently in the NBA's bottom third for blocks. Basically overall, the Mavericks aren't great on this end of the floor, as they currently rank 24th in defensive rating, 17th in opponent three-point percentage, last in steals, and again, bottom 10 in blocks in the NBA. Against a raging hot offense like the Clippers, those are certainly some concerning statistics. Another weakness of the Mavs is their rebounding. As though the team has some height, they are often out-rebounded, and I believe they are one of the worst playoff teams when it comes to this area of basketball, particularly on the offensive glass. Rebounding is important in any game, so if the Mavericks lose this battle across the entire series, it makes it difficult for me to see them coming out on top and causing the upset against the Clippers. So those are the strengths and weaknesses for both sides. Now, let's talk about a player from each team that needs to step up this series in order for their team to have the best chance of winning, starting with the Clippers. The player for LA who must step up this series is none other than Paul George. We all know the playoff P miseries of the past couple seasons, how atrociously PG has performed on the biggest stage. We're back at that stage of the season, and PG must prove himself again that he isn't really a playoff choker. When PG struggles, the play of the Clippers obviously will take a dip, and as a team that is in the midst of a championship or bust season, they really cannot afford those struggles to happen again. I'll keep it simple because I think it's pretty self-explanatory what Paul George needs to do and why he must step up. He must lift in these playoffs, not choke, be consistent, and be the 3-and-D all-star he's proven to be the last few seasons, because otherwise the Clippers are going to fall short. This past season was arguably the best of his career statistically, and at points during the year, during this stretch of play from George, the Clippers looked like the best team in the whole NBA. If he plays at his best consistently these playoffs, the Clippers may just be the favorites to get out of the Western Conference, but if he doesn't, the dreams of a conference finals appearance alone remain in the balance. He will again be the determining factor of the Clippers' success. It comes down to if he chokes and if he doesn't. So, PG must step up in order for LA to not only win this series, but to go deep into the postseason in 2021. As for the Mavericks, I think Porzingis is the guy that needs to lift for them. Kristaps Porzingis hasn't been great this year, and as a guy that's been viewed as the second guy next to Doncic, he needs to step up this round to be that option for the Mavs. The Mavericks were in a position to potentially win their first round matchup against the Clippers last year, but Porzingis' injury ruined that chance. That's how important he was back then to their success. Obviously, things are a bit different now. These aren't the exact same teams as last season, but if he's able to return to that level of impact and be another threat that the Clippers need to be wary of, not the streaky shooter and below par defender he's been at times this season, the Mavericks could win this series. Luka Doncic is amazing, but will only get them so far. So guys like Porzingis in particular need to lift to get the Mavericks over the line in this potential upset. So those are the guys that need to step up this series. Finally, let's talk about the keys to success for each team in this matchup. For the Clippers, it will be playing consistent basketball. They can't afford for guys to have off games often, like PG did last year, because that leads to dire consequences. This team is still trying to make a conference final for the first time in their history, and with both Kawhi and PG entering free agency this summer, it's championship or bust for the squad. That's why they must perform consistently at a high level and get through this series with no dramas, because realistically, there's bigger things on the Clippers' agenda. Not to say they shouldn't take this round seriously, the Mavericks have big upset potential, but the Clippers can get this round done quickly if they play at their best, so I think having everything in motion is their key to success. I know that's a bit broad, but we saw how the mediocre play cost them last year, and I don't think they want that to happen again. I'd also say shutting down Doncic to a certain degree will be key, as he's everything for Dallas. Minimizing his impact will obviously make the Mavs a lot less threatening, so getting a top defender like Kawhi on him at all times will be incredibly important for them if they wish to win this series. As for the Mavericks, they'd want to minimize the impact of Kawhi Leonard. That's easier said than done, of course, but I think I'd much rather have Paul George create for LA down the stretch than Kawhi. I'd be more content with that. So if the Mavericks are able to do that to a certain degree, they put themselves in a great position to potentially cause an upset and win this series. But with that all being said, after looking at each team's strengths and weaknesses, their keys to success, and the players who need to step up, it is time for my final prediction. Who wins this series? I'm going with the LA Clippers in 6 games, and here is why. The Clippers have been fantastic all year long, and are entering the playoffs fresh and on fire. It just feels wrong to go against them, especially since they match up really well with the Mavericks and have a lot of mismatches against them on paper. The Clippers are a great 3-point shooting team, and I don't think the Mavericks defense is capable of holding them back during the series, and they really lack a guy to shut down both Kawhi and Paul George. I feel like one of those two will go off every game this series. To be honest, I'm very tempted to tip the Clippers in just 5 games, but I think Doncic has enough magic in him to create some spark in the Mavs and get them a couple of wins. Still though, it's hard to go against the Clippers, who have been amazing all year long. So for that reason, I have the LA Clippers moving on to the second round in 6 games. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? Who do you have winning this series? The Clippers or the Mavericks, and in how many games? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.